This violent incident was a covered German attack on the German radio station on the eve of the invasion, and the attack was a deceitful false flag operation carried out by Germans posing as Poles. The next morning, Hitler invaded Poland, and during his declaration of war, he grouped very many provocations staged by SS on the Polish territory as alleged Polish assault on Germany. The Gleiwitz Provocation is a best-known action of Operation Himmler, intended to create the appearance of Polish aggression against Germany to justify the war. Today, we face a very similar situation, and the intensity of the anti-Polish information warfare we can see and feel and read every day. The so-called Polish concentration camps operation, if you will, because certainly this problem serves the German interest directly. And this manipulation of language violates paragraph 5 of the definition of the Holocaust denial, which was adopted by the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance. That paragraph 5 of the definition of Holocaust states that attempts to blur the responsibility for the establishment of concentration and death camps devised and operated by Nazi Germany by putting blame on other nations and ethnic groups represents distortion of Holocaust history. And yet, even though this is a blatant distortion of history, of the Holocaust history, we can hear and read those statements coming from the prominent sources, coming from the previous Obama administration, but also coming from today's major media, from the right and from the left. When it comes to the denial and distortion of the Holocaust, to the disadvantage of the Polish people, no one cares. We must remember, and we, the Polish people, know very well, that first, the concentration and death camps built and operated by Germany in occupied Poland in the first year of World War II exterminated primarily ethnic Poles. We are the victims, and yet we are being portrayed and framed primarily by Germany today as oppressors, as the guilty one. And this is not a small matter. Unfortunately, we don't have many representatives of the American community. We don't have American media, of course, because they don't want to hear it. But we need to spell it out. And this is a quote from the recent Facebook post of one of the Polish Americans who spell it out. I cringe every time I hear people talk about Polish collaboration or Polish death camps. Why is it so hard for people to understand how grievously Poland suffered and how heroically Poles resisted? This is causing pain and suffering to the Polish people. But as you see, no one cares, right? We need to speak up. We need to speak up and we need to cry out. We must not be quiet and we must not be ashamed of our pain and our suffering that is being caused by the mainstream media to us, to Polish Americans, and to Poland today. We know the consequences of this distortion of reality. Another example of anti-Polish campaign. This is, as you see, a copy of the Katyn execution order that was handed over to the Polish leadership in 1992. A copy of a signed order to execute 25,700 carriers of Polish identity. The NKVD order signed and acknowledged by Stalin. No question asked. And what we have today? This is a copy of the Google search for the term Katyn Memorial Day. You can see the first couple items that show up in Google search on this phrase. This is the anti-communist fraud. And if you have our children or any American who wants to learn about cutting, here it is. Anti-communist fraud. Okay? That's where we are, my dear Polish-American friends. Okay? We can let it go, sure. And here is another example. This monument, dedicated to the Polish-Americans, to the cutting victims, and so closely linked with the tragedy of 9/11, the witness of that horrific crime, will be moved, set aside, pushed aside. We don't like it. We don't want to look at it. It is inconvenient to talk about the Polish suffering, the Polish martyrdom. It is actually an anti-communist fraud, so why bother? And are we going to allow it? So just to realize that to give up, to remain silent, to pretend that we don't know, okay, leads us to justice denied for all crimes committed on the Polish people. And this is just to summarize. Look at the victims of the Polish operation of 37, the so-called Jeżów operation. 140,000 victims. The Katyń operation, at least 22,000 victims. The so-called Little Katyń Augustów operation, only 1,300 victims, right? A consistent pattern of genocidal operations on the Polish people with full impunity to this day. And on top of it, the Smolensk assassination. Polish victims of German Action AB, which was a partner operation with Katyń operation. They made a deal, and the Germans were killing the Poles in Action AB, and the Russians were exterminating the Poles in Katyń operation, right? Then Polish victims of the German concentration and slave labor camps, justice denied. Polish victims of Wołynia genocide, justice denied. Polish victims of Stalinist and communist crimes that Poland is trying or attempting to impose some accountability for those crimes. Justice denied, a violation of democracy, right? Polish victims of German and Russian genocides denied compensation on right and on one side and on the other side. Poland is prevented from implementing effective lustration process because those are all Russian spies. So Russia protects her people, right? So no lustration. Let them flourish forever in Poland. So a deeply harmed Polish society is denied the basic mechanism of transitional justice that are being given to all post-conflict societies all over the world. This is one of the primary human rights mechanisms that is being implemented in post-genocide society with great diligence and great pride of the human rights organizations. But in Poland, the transitional justice mechanisms not only are denied, they are being fought as enemies of democracy. They are being perceived as the authoritarian practices and denied any recognition. But I strongly believe that we will not give up, okay? Because like Churchill said, the soul of Poland is indestructible. I really believe it. And she will rise like a rock, which may for a spell be submerged by a tide, but which remains a rock. And please join me in this effort to speak up for Poland. And that will be concluding our program today.